The bargain. Aurelia then had 24 hours to choose between a stranger's name or the wilderness. She stood barefoot on the rusted floor of Velmer 7's immigration dome, hands clenched at her sides as the clerk droned her sentence. Per Settlement Code 9, exiles must be bonded to an approved settler within 1 day of planetary entry or be released into the unregulated zone. Released. As if exile weren't punishment enough. The unregulated zone was a death sentence. Storms, beasts, and no water for 100 clicks. The inner systems called this place rehabilitative relocation. Aurelia knew better. It was abandonment in slow motion. She swallowed hard as the next name was called. Corin Hale. Approved settler. Former Sector 3 militia. Landowner, District East. The man who stepped forward was nothing like she expected. Tall, broad-shouldered, and sun-leathered, Corin moved like he didn't care if the world watched or burned. A faded scar stretched across his jaw, and his dark eyes gave away nothing. He stopped beside her, barely nodding. "This is absurd," Aurelia muttered. Corin didn't respond. "I don't even know you," she said louder, desperate for the clerk to intervene. "No one does out here," Corin said, voice low. "That's the point." She opened her mouth to protest again, but the clerk slid the union contract across the desk. Digital ink shimmered. If she didn't sign, she'd be marched through those steel gates into open hell. Aurelia's parents were dead. Her family name was a curse after the failed rebellion against the Central Coalition. No appeals, no rescues, just this planet and this choice. With a shaking hand, she signed her name, Aurelia Van Hale. They were bonded in less than 5 minutes. The ride to Corin's homestead was silent. The hover truck rumbled over cracked earth and jagged outcrops. The sky above them was endless, lavender clouds over copper sand. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt like a cage. Corin finally broke the silence. "You'll have your own room. We work sunrise to dusk. Water's rationed. Don't leave the fences at night." "That's it?" "No, welcome to your new life," she said bitterly. He shot her a glance. "This isn't a life. It's survival." The truck stopped in front of a squat metal cabin surrounded by a perimeter fence humming with low energy. Wind howled across the barren plains. A mechanical windmill creaked in the distance. "This is home," Corin said, stepping out. He didn't look back. Aurelia remained seated, frozen by the weight of what had just happened. She'd gone from a decorated scholar to an exile's bride on a planet that ate the weak. And the man she now called husband treated her like a business contract. But as the wind clawed through the open truck door, she set her jaw. She would not break. Not for this planet. Not for the system. And certainly not for Corin Hale. Life at the edge. Aurelia awoke to the blare of a sunrise alarm. Sharp, metallic, and unrelenting. No soft tones. No comfort. Just the screech of another day on Velmer 7. The room was small. Metal walls. One cot. One shelf. A cracked mirror. Her meager belongings sat untouched in the corner. She dressed in coarse settler workwear left for her on the hook. One size too large, stiff from dust and disuse. Outside, the wind bit through her clothes as she stepped into the yard. Corin stood by the hydro rig, arms crossed, waiting. "You're late," he said. "It's barely dawn. Dawn's halfway through the day out here." He handed her a rusted tool and pointed to the irrigation lines. "Crack in the southern pipe. You'll need to reseal it. Use the patch paste from the bin. Don't cut your hand. Parasites love open wounds." No good morning. No instruction. Just orders. Then he turned and walked off toward the solar bank. Aurelia knelt beside the pipe, fingers numb. The cracked tubing hissed out precious moisture. Her first attempt at applying the paste failed. It hardened too soon. The second stuck. She wiped her forehead with the back of her arm, leaving a streak of grime across her brow. By noon, she'd repaired the line, harvested 2 trays of dustberries, and had a sunburn across her neck. Corin barely spoke to her. When he did, it was blunt and dry. "Fence needs checking. Windmill sensors out. Don't touch the northern shed." She could have screamed, but each night, she noticed the quiet signs of something. An extra blanket on her cot. Hot stew already portioned. A fixed light panel in her room. Small things. Silent offerings. Still, The tension between them stretched like wire. Unspoken, sharp. Then came the storm. It rolled over the horizon like a beast, red lightning, black wind, and thunder that shook the foundations of the homestead. Storm protocol. Corin barked. Inside now, but Aurelia didn't make it. She'd been resetting the solar relay on the outer fence, a kilometer from the house. By the time she saw the storm wall, it was too late. The wind hit first, nearly knocking her off her feet. Sand tore her skin. She stumbled blindly toward the homestead, coughing, screaming into the void. Then, strong arms around her. Corin's voice. Got you. Move. They dove into the storm shelter under the main cabin. The hatch slammed shut, muting the roar outside. For the first time, they were inches apart, breathing hard, eyes locked. You could have died out there, he said hoarsely. You left me out there, she snapped. I didn't know you were still outside. Silence stretched. Then, softly, he said, I went back for you. Aurelia didn't reply, but she didn't move away either. In that howling dark, buried beneath earth and silence, a single thread of connection was sewn, fragile, unexpected, and real. Between fire and frost. 3 weeks had passed since the storm, but Aurelia hadn't forgotten the way Corin's arms had wrapped around her. She hadn't forgotten the quiet panic in his voice, or the way he avoided her eyes since. Something had shifted between them, but neither dared name it. She threw herself into the work. Repairs, harvesting, even studying native fungi from the shaded cliff valleys nearby. Velmer, 7 was still hostile, but it no longer felt like it wanted her dead, just hardened. But peace didn't last long on the edge. It started with smoke on the horizon, thin, black, rising from the west. Raiders, she asked, heart tightening. Corin didn't answer. He'd already strapped on his old militia gear and slung a rifle across his back. His jaw was tight, shoulders tense. They hit the Dvark farm, he said. Burned half the stock. Took supplies. Are they coming here? Maybe. We're on the list. Fear clutched her, but she kept her voice steady. Then let me help. He glanced at her, hesitated. You're not trained for this. I'm trained in bioanalytics and adaptive tech. Let me rig the perimeter sensors and fortify the med supplies. If we're going to be targets, I won't be useless. Corin looked at her for a long time, something unreadable in his gaze. Fine, but if anything goes wrong, you run. No arguments. She nodded, but in her gut, she knew she wouldn't run. That night, the raiders came. They were faster than expected, 6 skimmers slicing across the sand. Aurelia's sensors picked up movement first. Her warning flashing on Corin's comm, he rallied the perimeter. Gunfire echoed through the plains. Aurelia worked from the shelter, guiding civilians to safety, patching wounds with her makeshift biotech salves. She didn't see Corin until the explosion. A flare burst at the northern gate, then silence. She ran. Through smoke and dust, she found Corin on the ground, blood blooming from his leg. 2 raiders lay nearby, unmoving. Corin, I told you. Shut up and let me help. She dragged him behind cover, breath ragged, fingers working fast to seal the wound. Her salve hissed on contact. He winced, but didn't stop her. You're more than I expected, he muttered. She pressed cloth to his thigh, blinking back tears. You think I'm just some pampered exile? No, he rasped. I think you're the reason I've lasted this long. For a moment, the battle noise faded, replaced by only their breath and the warmth of his hand grasping hers. I came here to survive, she whispered. But now, I think I want more. Corin looked at her, not with distance this time, but something deeper. Then stay with me. Not because you have to, because you choose to. By dawn, the raiders were gone. The homestead stood, scarred but alive. So were they. And for the first time, Aurelia didn't feel like a prisoner of fate. She felt like a partner. The choice. The days after the raid blurred into a steady rhythm of recovery. Burned fences were replaced. Supplies inventoried. Fallen settlers buried in the red earth. The worst was over, or so Aurelia thought, until the shuttle arrived. It descended in a burst of dust and static, gleaming and official. A coalition emblem burned bright on its side. A government envoy stepped out, flanked by 2 armored guards. Aurelia Venn. She stiffened. Yes. You've been granted clemency, the envoy said, by order of the Inner Systems Judiciary. Effective immediately, your exile is rescinded. A ship awaits. You may return home. The words hit harder than any storm. Home? What did that even mean now? She sat outside the cabin that night, staring into the fire pit, the clemency order in her hand. The document glowed with blue light, promising comfort, security, everything she'd once believed she wanted. Corin sat beside her, silent. He hadn't said much since the envoy left. He hadn't needed to. Finally, she asked, "Did you know this was coming?" No, he stared at the flames. "But I figured someday someone would come for you." Aurelia traced her fingers over the edge of the order. "They didn't come for me. They came to reclaim a name. My name only matters again now that the war's cooled." He looked at her then, really looked. "So what will you do?" "I don't know. You don't owe me anything," he said. "Not after all this. If you want to go, I won't stop you." And that was what cut deepest, because she realized he would never ask her to stay. He would let her walk away if it meant she'd be safe, even if it broke him. She packed in silence. The shuttle was scheduled to lift off in the morning. Clothes, her notes, the sensor schematics, everything fit into one small pack. She stood by the door and looked around the cabin. The patched roof, the marked calendar by the table, the quiet strength in every corner. And Corin, standing by the workbench, pretending he wasn't watching her. Her heart ached. She stepped forward and placed the bag down slowly. "I can't go." He turned, brow furrowed. "What?" "I thought I came here to serve a sentence," she said. "Then I thought I stayed because I had no choice. But now I know. I stayed because I found something worth staying for." "You don't have to." She crossed him, took his hand. "I want to," she said softly. "Not because I must. Not because we're bonded by law. But because you've become my home." Corin's expression cracked. Walls she'd never thought would fall shattered in an instant. His arms wrapped around her, and this time the embrace was not about protection. It was about belonging. The shuttle lifted off without her the next morning. And on the edge of a world that had once been her prison, Aurelia Hale chose her own future, one built not from exile, but from love. Forever changed, and finally free.